Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John reads a listener email and wishes we could be a zany morning zoo radio show. Meanwhile, I have an important retraction from last week because I'm stupid and tell you about some wild wedding proposals on Leap Day in 13th century Scotland. Plus a conversation about neighbors, enemies, and America's addiction to grievance. Today's episode is not sponsored by driving directions from old people. Less accurate than GPS, but also way more condescending. But first, a word from our actual sponsor.
Coming at you from Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Johnny, it's another episode of Talk About That.
I don't think we're coming at.
We're coming right at you. Watch out.
That was a very 20-somethings.
You don't think
a morning zoo radio show.
Have you seen the billboards around town for? They're always the billboards for a morning zoo show are always like the guys are back.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they went.
Right.
But like when
you always have to know their schedules.
When we would say we're back, we missed like a week or two.
Uh-huh.
But I think they just get fired all the time.
We're too consistent is what we are.
We met someone today.
Yeah.
Who had listened to all 300 and what? I think this is almost 50, 350. Yeah. And I had the idea like we need to be, because like there's a restaurant in Mount Juliet that does specialty hot dogs.
Sure.
And
Corey's Doghouse.
And they're like from different parts. Like you get a Memphis dog and it has this
from different parts of the animal.
Country.
Okay.
Well, yeah, hot dogs are from different parts.
It's a melange of flavors, really.
And on the wall, there's like all these Polaroids if you've eaten all the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we need something like that for the listeners who listen to every episode of Talk About That.
We could put them on this wall because it's kind of blank back here.
And I said, let's have them take a Polaroid of themselves and we'll put them on the wall
and
of fame.
And then somebody else said, what's a Polaroid?
And then you said, what if they lied? And I was like,
well, why would somebody?
What's the end game?
If you go to that trouble, you deserve to be on that wall.
Yeah, if you're
willing to jump through those hoops and not listen to the episodes, but you desperately want to be on our wall for some reason?
Right, on a YouTube channel that barely gets any. Now, look, people, you really could go to this new YouTube channel. It's not new, but we have a lot of new videos up.
We do. One of our friends, Lucas Wharton, has been just at it. He's been he's a yeoman. He's working.
We were probably 6 months behind.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say why.
But we're up to date.
Well, we're up to date.
What do you mean you're not going to say why? Was it my fault?
I was gonna pick at one of our other friends, but he knows.
Yeah.
But it's not his fault.
We would never. We wouldn't do that. That's not our style.
I wouldn't even say anything about it.
No.
At any rate, he's actually fairly important.
Okay. I thought you were going to blame me, and I would have.
What would you? Was it your fault?
No, that's why. Well, maybe it was. Do you ever feel that? I think I'm one of those guys that I think I was raised that way where, like when they make an announcement in the airport and they go, if you have left
you assume it's
a pair of boots at the security, I go, boots?
Did I leave boots?
Think when you walk and see the sign that says, do not try to bring a firearm through this, I go, I suddenly go, do I have a firearm?
Right. Even though you don't own it.
I don't own a firearm.
Yeah. Yeah. I did leave a bag one time.
Yeah.
And I had to run across.
And it was full of firearms?
It was, they don't like that.
Full to the brim with.
They don't like it.
Firearms is a very it's like what a caveman would call a gun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he showed up and he had these arms. Fire came out of his arms.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
It turns your arm into fire. When I was little, I remember one of the first kind of like, you tell some jokes sometimes that get on joke about that. They are very long and drawn out to just draw you in the end. It's some ridiculous thing not related to the joke. I remember my cousin took me on something like a 5-minute deal.
Yeah.
In the end, the guy had spilled gasoline on himself, and then a cop pulled up and arrested him. I was like, what? Why did the cop arrest him? It's like illegal firearms. I was like, oh, wow, that took me.
Yeah. You'll never get that time back. And neither will you, dear listener.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I don't know. But yeah, what were we talking about before you said that? Before I took us on a rabbit trail.
We're talking about YouTube videos.
Oh, but feeling shame, feeling guilt for something you didn't do.
Yeah.
Like I thought it would be my fault. Like I think that there is a thing inside me that goes like, it's probably my fault.
My therapist calls that part of me my responsible guy.
Yeah.
He's like, your responsible guy feels responsible for everything and everybody and what they do. I'm trying to really...
That's an old Seinfeld bit. He said, like, when they tell you you're going to grow up, you get to be a responsible adult. But he's like, he goes, who wants to be responsible? Whenever the car accident happens, the first thing people ask, who's responsible for this? Like, he goes, why are we in such a hurry to be responsible?
I do find myself wanting to be responsible for less.
Yeah.
Now.
That's good.
Like, I don't. Communication's a really funny one. Like, if you're like, I always leave the ball in someone else's court, or if it's in my court, I have to make sure I do something about it.
You mean like to follow up with communication, or like, let's do dinner, let's get lunch, dude.
Right. Because in my world, what'll happen is people are often hurting or whatever, and easily
well, you've hurt them.
Well, it could be something for me like, sure, I'd love to get together. And then 6 months later, they're like upset about something. Like, well, you never called. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know I had it. Because there's an assumption it's my responsibility.
I think you're assuming right now that person has hurt that's not there, but you're like taking it on. You're like, I bet they're going to be upset and I'll be blamed.
I have been blamed many times.
Yeah, you have. I made it worse.
What did you tell me right before we started? That you're the only one that cares about the podcast? Or something?
Yeah. But that was just was just the truth.
So we are sitting in now.
Yeah, boy. We're not going to do studio talk again.
Almost a fully remodeled.
We spent too much time last week.
I wish you guys could
talking about all the construction.
If Jonnie had not wanted so badly the shot that we have right now, you would be seeing the most majestic bookcase.
It's nice. The built-in shelves with books. So many books, John, very important. Many of which you've written.
Some.
At least parts of.
Some I've even read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some traced. That's not.
I will say I walked in here yesterday and I had this feeling of, this is a space I want to work in. Like, I had a real good, like, okay, that makes me want to do stuff. And that's good.
That's what you should feel in an office.
It's like Creed Bratton. He's like, guys, I finished my work months ago. Remember that? That's kind of.
Yeah. This does feel, it feels conducive to creativity and productivity.
Yeah.
All of the ivities.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did it, John. You got it done. You did carpeting.
I did. And
you're very handy.
My hamstrings. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was walking around a tournament this weekend, just like someone stabbed me in the back of my leg every time I took a step.
They just thought you were old volleyball dad.
Look at that guy.
Bless his heart.
Looked like I was just, I don't know.
These old parents, what can you do? He just had a hip replacement.
And God love him.
Yeah.
I guess I probably am old enough for hip replacement, but I don't know.
I need to issue a public apology because last week's episode got like dozens, like tens of thousands of downloads.
Yeah.
And I realized after we shot it, the minute we rewrapped, I said, I think I used a word wrong twice.
Oh, that's right.
And that's the thing. Here's the deal, too. Let me say this about podcasts. We have a podcast. We like podcasts. But I also think that podcasts are part of what's wrong with the country because we just let people just talk authoritatively about things and then they build these little cults around their shows and they never question.
Right.
Like the Joe Rogans of the world. It's not enough just to like Joe Rogan. It's now like he can't ever be wrong.
Yeah.
And so I never want this show to ever people think that about us, that we're like, well, these people seem to know what they're talking. No, we don't. And here's the proof. I said dearth twice last week.
Yeah.
And what I thought I was saying was like a surplus of this or a plethora.
Yeah.
But a dearth is actually the opposite. Dearth means scarcity.
Right.
It means a shortage of.
You wanted it to mean like multiplicity.
And I think I was talking about podcasts. I said, there's a dearth of podcasts. There's not a dearth of podcasts. Johnny's an idiot.
There's a multiplicity.
So what I want to say is that I'm issuing now a public retraction, and I'm self-flagellating in a way. And I will not use big words like self-flagellate ever again.
Ever. Because
what happens is people go, oh, this guy must be a smart guy. No, I'm not.
No, he's not.
Don't put your faith in me. I say things like dearth when I'm using the exact wrong word.
And when you used it,
it was the confidence.
It's not a common word that I
kind of wink at the camera like, dearth.
Did you hear dearth?
That's right. Hey, I didn't go to college like you, but I know words. And no, I don't.
Johnny,
Anyway,
I think you may be being a little too hard on yourself.
My confidence is at an all-time dearth. That's what that's wrong again.
I wonder how many of the listeners picked up on the misusage.
That's part
because
of
what you're afraid you're
I'm trying to head it off.
People, right?
No, but I'm trying to head it off at the pass because I know there's a letter coming. Actually, and I don't want that.
That's not what I'm worried about.
Oh.
I'm worried about people who are not familiar with the word now beginning to think that's what dearth means.
What if they don't? What if they just go use it? They don't listen to the retraction because
again, if they're acolytes of the show.
Wow, we're just keeping piling them on.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Then they're like, Johnny used Dearth like this. Look, I say things all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, this is funny.
Okay.
We have a mutual friend, very close mutual friend,
Yeah.
Caleb.
Right.
And so we normally get together every other week to have breakfast, and he went on a cruise with you.
Yes.
And so, and I've been a little busy on my front as well, and we're hosting an event right now here and everything. So I was like, dude, I miss you. He's like, I miss you too. And he said something. He made a joke about us getting together, you know. And I said, I'll be wearing a black carnation.
Yeah.
And I just thought that's just what I would say. I'll be the guy with the black carnation.
Right.
And he said, Johnny used that joke last week.
Yeah.
And I said, I've been hanging out with Johnny too much. This is to your point.
Yeah.
Because I legitimately thought I just made that up.
Wow, dude.
I did not think I was like.
Well, I usually say red, but
Well, that's the
Red
point.
Carnation.
Red carnation is the whole thing. So
well, I've told that story on the podcast of like
I made a masculine carnation.
Yeah, I landed at. Well, yeah, you want to rest some stupid red carnation? No, I've told that story on the pod before, but I landed at a show. And I had like an 11 o'clock show at New Year's at a church one time in Kansas. And I get to the hotel at like 4. The guy, we do sound check. The guy drops me off. He goes, just get some rest, because I had to take an early flight. He goes, just get some rest and I'll come pick you up later. I go, cool. So then I get this text from that guy. Mm-hmm. I was barely awake. I'd taken this like 3-hour nap, and I wake up and it's like, now it's 8 o'clock. And he goes, I'll be there to get you. I'm driving a such and such Cutlass. He had a Cutlass. I remember that. And I was like, man, this is an old car.
Yeah.
He says, I'll be there. I've been a red Cutlass.
I love this
And
story.
I said, because I'm half awake, and I immediately text him, cool, I'll be wearing a red carnation, no cops, or I kill a hostage.
No, I think what you said
Or I
is
said the girl dies, or something. No cop or the girl
dies.
And then he did not respond. And so now I'm like,
So
did he get it? Did I offend him?
Right. Did he
No
just call the
response.
authorities?
Right.
Right.
I'm getting ready to do a comedy show for this guy. I'm not his vibe, evidently, because even if he knows it's a joke, he's like, that's not the kind of joke. Is he going to say that kind of stuff on stage?
Right.
And so later on, I see him at the show. He's like, and I go, hey, did you get my text earlier? And he goes, oh, yeah. And then he still didn't give me anything. It wasn't like, I get what you did. He was just like, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, what's your problem?
So anyway, so that's probably where you remember that from. But I mean, that's an old trope in movies of I'll be
Exactly.
wearing a whatever. I'm sitting at no cops, drop the money in the trash can in the park.
I was not thinking about Jonnie W. at all when I said that.
You are a no good joke thief, and you must be stopped.
I was just like, man.
You alter it one little bit. You go black carnation. Now
Yeah.
it's original. Now it's a John. No, it's not.
Now it's a John.
Now it's what we call a John in the industry. Speaking of industry, John, we got to keep these lights on, these brand new lights that you have shining on my forehead. And to keep those lights on, we have advertisers. We love our advertisers.
Yeah.
And we want to take a minute and hear from a few of our fine sponsors.
And we're back. Just like the billboards say, I want a billboard with me and you.
That says we're back. Where they
Where
go
they-
away so we can miss you.
I'm telling you, if you see these around Nashville, it's obviously a staged photo shoot.
Right. Not like our wonderful,
Right.
where we're just,
It's evident in that photo.
those guys hang out.
Actually, you were making me laugh there. I'm pretty
Okay,
certain.
maybe.
Yeah. So
I probably said
yeah,
something.
that's a fun that we've done. I think that's our only real photo shoot together. I think.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we're really laughing the whole time.
Yeah, we
You know what I'm
probably
saying?
were.
Yeah. So that makes it easy for the smiling. But one guy's wearing like this really loud,
Yeah, one guy's zany.
and the other guy looks, he's got a full head of hair,
Right. That's me.
but it's gray,
It grounds the show.
and he's kind of looking, but they're just doing all these like staged, I guess, poses.
All right.
One-
Now hold this chicken.
Now put your fingers in your ears
Right.
and just stare at him.
The other guy just shouts.
Yeah, and I was just like, I don't know. It's all around town. Maybe the show's great.
Maybe
but-
that's we're missing is we don't have that. We need more staged.
Yeah. And I think maybe they're thinking, let's make this look stupid, and that'd be funny to them. That's what we would probably do.
We're good at looking stupid without any staging.
We
at
don't
all.
have to even try.
We don't need help.
Lots of people have to try.
I will say, I said that a bit that I care more about the podcast than you, and I think it's not true that I care more. I think I bring more to the podcast, but I think you care more. And I will say, you've put a lot of work into everything, while the wiring's out of the way now, you got your new desk here. We got the thing, the monitor. Everything's looking good. You did a good job.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
You know what it reminded me of? I was driving yesterday, and I was in a rental car, and I remember thinking, like, in our cars, you lived through this era of when you had your CD player, because I'm listening to the 90s station, 90s on 9 on Sirius XM, and they do the whole 4-disc CD changer. Remember this track? And they do that to set up the song sometimes, where it's like a deep cut from an Alice in Chains, record or something from the 90s. They go, disc changer, and they hear the sound. That sound takes you back. Uh-huh. It reminded me of the CD players. If you had the money to get a CD player in your car, what you wanted was a CD player with a detachable face. Yeah. Because people were stealing stereos out of your car. Uh-huh. But somehow you take the face, you've taken every, they're like, I'm not taking a CD player without a face. But then you have a face, the front end of your CD player, and they would give you this clamshell glasses case to put it in. Yeah. So now you're walking around with this weird, and you take it in like one time, you'd be like, I got my detachable. All right. Nobody's stealing this. You take it to dinner one time with, and you're like, I'm never doing that again. Yeah, I don't care if everybody steals everything I have.
Because back then you didn't carry an electronic device around with you.
Now that's what I'm saying. Is like it was stupid, but now we never are away from our phone for longer than John lost his phone today, and it blew my mind because I cannot remember the last time I've lost my phone. I'm so attached to it. We're tethered to these phones.
Yeah. By the way, we got an email from a listener. Yeah. Who had taken on this topic.
Yes. Read it. Do you have it?
I do.
Because it was nice. And I thought, well, you know what? We got one. We're going to change the world. Yeah. We're not the bad kind of podcasters. We just give misinformation about what dearth means.
Right.
But other than that, we're good people. We're trying out here.
We're trying. This is Grant Morgan. Thank you for listening, Grant. He said, I recently decided to reduce my phone usage. I started carrying a book around with me, something we talked about on an episode.
I'm not saying it's our idea, but
maybe
Grant was inspired.
I was like, hey, what if I carried a book?
We didn't invent books. I want to go ahead and say that.
Guys, I've invented a few books. But anyway, instead of reaching for my phone, I start reading. In 2 weeks, I've read 8 books.
I didn't read that part. Yeah, I didn't get that far. I looked at my phone. I really did.
Probably happening.
Yeah.
My mind is clear. My average screen time is down to 15 minutes a day. For the first week, I still.
All right, now you're just bragging, Grant.
He said I would naturally still reach for my phone for the first week, but now I no longer even have the urge to reach for my phone. I even started turning my phone completely off on Sundays. Grant, you are my hero. And I got to be honest with you, that idea I had of carrying the book around, I've not done.
Oh, no.
I think I tried one day.
Grant is the test case for your theory.
Yeah. He's doing, the Bible talks about hearers and doers, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He is a doer of the word.
Right.
I'm just a hearer only, which means I deceive myself, I think is what the scriptures say.
I've been saying it for years, even if the scripture hadn't.
But well done, man. That's amazing. And
go, Grant.
Let's all...
15 minutes. I spent 15... That's one bathroom trip. 15 minutes on your phone?
I had that thought because of the tournament going to the bathroom. I thought, every person in this entire huge bathroom with all these stalls, they all have their phones with them. And then I went to a Buc-ee's and thought the same thing. I thought, what would life be like now? I
like when I'm in the airport and someone is in the stall next to me and I hear them on a very important business call and they're like, no, I can talk now. And I so want to shout out, he's on the toilet. Like I want to ruin his, because he's trying to have a normal encounter, but it's not normal. It's not normal. Just let it go to voicemail and call the guy back when you're not pooping.
Maybe you should hey, you got any extra toilet paper?
Yeah, something.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
More subtle.
He's pooping. Hey, John, it's about that time.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's my quote of the week, a little segment we call They Talked About That.
See if I can get the note here.
I think it was better today.
Pretty close.
It was better. I think we have our monitors a little louder than usual.
Yeah,
right
we
now.
need it. We're going deaf over here.
I've heard some of the other stuff we've done.
Okay.
And we're playing.
Right.
But it sounds like that we've never sang together at all.
It does. We were in bands, very successful bands.
Yeah. I did think about, I'm going to do some probably shadow boxes. I thought about taking the record.
I want a band photo back here, too. I want, something.
Well, I thought that wall, what you guys can't see is I have a keyboard and 2 guitars on this other wall. And I thought about making that the band wall with all kinds of photos and stuff around.
Yeah, you could make it the band wall.
But I do want it in the shot.
Okay, sure.
Maybe both. I will say this. I have a lot of Johnny and John pictures.
I got a lot of guitars at the house I could bring over here if you want to put some guitars on this wall.
And we just line the.
Oh yeah.
Remember that church we went to play? It was for our. Our
showcase.
Our showcase.
Yeah.
And they had, dude, if they had one, they had 250 guitars lining the wall.
An amp. It was amps, a big wall of amps.
Yeah, and guitars, and like it was like it used to be some guitar factory or something, and they had kept anyway. Johnny G.K. Chesterton, which man, everything he ever said, I think was great.
Yeah, isn't he the one who won C.S. Lewis to Christ? Yeah. Aren't they kind of?
They were. I think that he influenced
a mentor.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. He says the Bible tells us to love our neighbors and also to love our enemies, probably because generally they are the same people.
Yeah,
love our neighbors, love our enemies, and I really think about that right now. There's a lot of talk around the country about who should be in, who should be out. And I'm not getting into the political side of that I'm not talking about secure borders or all those kinds of things. I am talking about, though, the way we look at people and how we filter Scripture. There's certain things, like when I was writing Not So Black and White with Reggie, it's really not just about race. It's a lot about being willing to change the way you think and whether or not the Bible calls you to be willing to change the way you think. And I begin to really spend time in scriptures like, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? So like in the active present tense, there's a transforming, a renewing of the mind that's a part of what God does to form you into who you're going to be. So I like the present tense of that. And there was another one that was, let your reasonableness be known. Gentleness, there's different translations, but if you do the Amplified, it's let your gentleness or your reasonableness, your tolerance, your kindness, these things, let them be known to all men. And I asked this question in the book of myself and of the reader, and that is like, this is a clear, I think, imperative from Paul. I'm not going to call it a command, but this is a biblical imperative. And I have to ask myself, what am I doing with this right now? Like, what do I do with this scripture? If I'm going to invoke scripture, what do I do with this one? That it says, let my gentleness, reasonableness, tolerance, kindness be known to all people.
Yeah.
Because the Lord is at hand is the end of that. If the Lord is near. Like, and I ask that, and I think that's where this goes. Like, there are people I treat like enemies. They don't have to be enemies of my country or whatever. There are those that I think I dismiss too easily.
Yeah.
And this goes down to the definition of neighbor, right? When Jesus said, love your neighbor, and then he was asked, like, well, Lord, who is my neighbor? And then he goes into the story of the Good Samaritan, right? And those guys were not neighbors, right? I mean, they didn't know each other at all.
Right.
And so he broadens the idea, because I think we still think of neighbor as the person living near you or in your life, but like neighbors are the people you encounter, right? Anyone you encounter. And I love the Pilgrim's Credo, that one of the lines in it was, we pray this at church all the time, is I am not in control. I am not in a hurry. I greet everyone with peace. I bring back only what God gives me.
Yeah.
I think I left one out. I'm not in control. I'm not in a hurry. I greet everyone with peace. Oh, I walk in faith and hope.
Yeah.
I walk in faith and hope. I greet everyone with peace, and I bring back only what God gives me. That really cleanses my soul to say that slowly and breathe as I say it. Breathe deeply between the words. I'm always breathing when I'm talking.
Yeah. No, you want to keep breathing while you're.
It's important. But I think like that idea of part of being on pilgrimage as a disciple, as a follower of Jesus, is greeting everyone with peace. Everyone. I'm going to greet everyone with peace. And like, what am I doing with that today? Because generally the people I consider my enemies, the Bible considers my neighbors.
Yeah, it's tough.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we got to get better at that. That idea of if we could just get rid of the people that are the problem, this would be a better place. And you're like, you're missing the point. Yeah. When you feel like everybody that's not like you should be removed from the equation, I think. And we're being kind of played against each other. There's an old meme that I read, and it was basically about if there's red ants and black ants in a jar and they keep fighting at each other and we're trying to figure out who's at fault, it's the person shaking the jar. I feel like we got to start getting mad at the person who's shaking the jar.
Yeah.
And it's media, it's culture, it's the way the algorithm is kind of geared to make us angry and then monetize that outrage. Like, that's what's shaking the jar, but it's making us think, if we could just get rid of those red ants.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, no, like, figure out who's behind it, you know?
Yeah.
And we got to get better at that. And I think I need to get better at it for sure.
And that's a question I don't know if I ever made it into the book, but a lot of things I wrote after the book is ask yourself, who made me angry? Mm-hmm. Like, really, to your point, trace back the breadcrumb trail. Where did you start becoming angry? What was the source?
Yeah.
What was the news source? What was the politician? What was the ideology? What was the pastor? What was the person you follow? Like, who made you angry?
But it's easy to dismiss that too. You say, like, well, that was an awakening in my life. I needed to be.
And maybe you did.
Yeah, but it's like that sustained rage, though, that we feel in the country now that's like a boiling over, like, we need retribution.
Yeah.
That's not godly to me. That I don't think you can make a case that that's some godly, righteous indignation. I feel like this is unhealthy to me.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to write a book called Angry Militant Christians. I mean, because that's a striking title to me, to your point.
Yeah.
Those things, I'm not saying Christians don't need to sometimes serve in the military or defend themselves. I'm not really speaking to that. But if my total disposition is angry and militant, when I say militant, I mean, like, when you drive around our town,
yeah,
there's lots of imagery on people's houses and their front yard and their cars,
right,
that are combining religious symbolism,
yeah,
directly with violence.
It's almost like a fantasy of violence too.
Yeah.
It's like, I hope somebody makes a move.
Yeah.
So that I can live out this thing I've been preparing for. You go, it's okay to prepare. I'm okay with the Second Amendment. I also think it shouldn't be your weird fever dream to pull out a gun on somebody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. I mean, a local pastor, and I've said that before on the podcast. He literally said one day, if you try to take our First Amendment rights, right? If you try to take our free speech, then we're going to come at you with our Second Amendment rights. And this is a pastor from a stage.
Yeah.
And you're like,
he said it to get cheers.
Yeah, and did.
Yeah.
And I think, like, to your point, and I think I said that at the church the other day, like, look, I do believe and we had this talk with the staff. Hey, we're a church. And a belief of any...
It's a good start to a staff meeting, by the way. I want to say that. Hey, guys, before we get going, we're a church.
Well, I think sometimes it gets lost. We're not a community center.
Yeah.
Right? We're not a friendship station helping everybody find their best friends. Because people do. They leave our church or any church, and it's sad. They can't
not a business. That's a big one now.
We're not a business.
Yeah.
We have a business side to what we have to do, but we're not running church like a business is the worst advice ever given. Right. But it's a common phrase, especially in our upbringing. Mm-hmm. And I think that what we are is we're a church, but really we are the church, but we're a local parish, if you want to call it that, right? Where the church comes. And so something we're going to say or believe, if we believe anything, it's offensive to somebody. Mm-hmm. We can't not be offensive to somebody.
Right.
But the question is, are we setting out to do that? Mm-hmm. Or are we trying to do this in gentleness and hope that God transforms lives as he is ours, that it's happening with us first? As the Bible says, that we're the hardworking farmer should be the first to partake of the crop, right? So, but I also told the church, like, I'm not going to be the judge of people, but I think what I should want to think is that God finds a way to show more grace and help to other people. I'm not hoping like, I hope they get there someday on Judgment Day. Like, there is a why does the wicked prosper part of the scriptures, right?
Yeah.
But David always in those scriptures generally returned to his own wickedness by the end. Like, God, it's my heart I need you to take care of.
Yeah.
And so I can want God to exact the right kind of judgment. And I think we need that, by the way. I think this is really important theologically. If the only way you can not walk around angry is you believe that ultimate judgment and vengeance is God's.
Right. There's somebody at the wheel
who's going to take care of this in due time, and you may not see it in your lifetime because this is an eternal matter, but you trust he's going to take care of this. He's going to be the one who makes the final decisions. I don't have to enforce all the judgment that I feel, right? Because there is a judge. So I think it's important because there will be punishment and all those things. But I think it's also important to know if he enforces it against me, who can stand, right? So that's why I need the grace of Christ, and I hope that there are others who have it too. Would it be nice if the people who are my enemies, who are my neighbors or whatever, that they also trusted in Christ's judgment, the judgment that came upon him, so that they received the same grace too and not wrath. I think that that's a good.
Yeah, there used to be a pastor that we sat under for a while, and he would tell this story. I thought it was pretty powerful. He would talk about how the married couples who one was in the faith and one was out, let's say it's the wife, she would come to him and say, please, my husband, he's not living right. Just pray for him every week for years. And then finally, one Sunday, he shows up with her. He goes, 9 times out of 10, she's not there the next week. And he goes, because what I found is a lot of times they don't want redemption, they want revenge. It's almost like it's a talking point of this person is other.
Yeah.
And just pray for my husband. He treats me bad. But the minute he makes a turn, it's like, did you really want him to turn?
Yeah.
Or do you want to have a grievance? And like you gotta own that part of yourself that wants to have grievance.
Well, you have a right to have grievance, and I think you have to realize the grievance sits in a seat, right, in your mind, and that seat's still going to be there even if it's vacated by the grievance. Yeah. And it's hard not to put something else there, like you said, vengeance or something else. You have to choose something different because that space is taken up in your mind.
Yeah, we talked about that today at lunch about how athletes, when they retire, like when Jordan retired, he didn't know what to do with himself. He comes back with the Wizards. It's like you can't get that same juice.
No.
So half of them become like gambling. They get into businesses. They throw their money into some restaurant that fails, whatever it is, because they were on national television playing this kids game that they loved, and they were the best in the world at it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to get that. So yeah, there's that thing, like you said, that thing that you get a little juice from, it's taken away, and now it's like, well, now what do? I don't get to be mad anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we got to admit that we have not just an anger problem, we have an anger addiction problem.
Well, I mean, my therapist says anger reveals something you care about.
Yeah.
Right, something you defend. If you're angry, it's because you care about something generally that's been hurt or whatever. You're protecting something. Mm-hmm. It's an emotion that reveals other emotions or reveals values. And so that's why it's so hard to get people to stop being angry, is because I think they really have a legitimate something they care about. And if you're saying what you care about doesn't matter, stop being angry, then we never get anywhere.
Yeah.
That's why the addiction's so easy to happen.
Well, there's a time to be passionate and activist about things, and I think there's also a time to like look toward reconciliation and look towards redemption. And I mean, we're in a strange cycle right now in this country, so yeah, we'll see how it plays out. And it's hard for me to relinquish that control because I want to worry about it. I know that it doesn't help, and I also don't know what to do with the worry. Yeah. But it's just a strange time. So yeah, I need the same. I need that advice too. You might say there's a dearth of options, John, which means not many. There's a scarcity. Oh boy,
here we go.
Dearth. John, let's move to my segments. The first one is Johnny's old jokes. We call it Joke About That. John, I asked an old man, even after 60 years of being married, how can you still call your wife honey, darling, and sweetheart? He replied, well, I forgot her name 10 years ago, and I'm scared to ask her. It's an old man joke.
I like it.
John, 2 cows are talking in a field. The first cow says, hey, man, you worried about this mad cow disease that's going around? The second cow says, I'm sure glad it doesn't affect us helicopters. And finally, John, archaeologists digging, this is a true story, archaeologists digging in a pyramid in Egypt have found a mummy covered in chocolate and hazelnuts and believe it to be Pharaoh Rocher.
True story, guys.
That one, I like that one the best.
Sure.
That's my favorite.
Like
Pharaoh Rocher.
That's a nice play.
It's
on
a
words.
nice little.
It's not quite as good as Hatchback of Notre Dame, but it's fine.
John, okay. Your joke will not make it in the show, and I'm sorry for you. John, let's move on. Let's do This Week in History. We call it Talk About Then. John, this week, 1981, this story became a movie, which I didn't know. I don't think I've seen this movie. John Cusack, it's called Money for Nothing in 1993, but the story happened in 1981. February of 1981, Joey Coyle picked up $1.2 million that fell out of an armored car and went on a wild spending spree.
Wow.
He was arrested 6 days later, but acquitted by reason of temporary insanity. I don't know. That's a wild defense that it worked.
Wow.
They're like, well, yeah, $1.2 million. He was temporarily insane.
Yeah.
And they acquitted him. But he committed suicide less than 1 month before the film was released. So I guess he lived another 10 years, but that's pretty crazy. And you hear that about lottery winners and stuff too. This is a really weird, impactful thing in his life. And who knows if he even had anything of substance that he kept from the spending spree.
Yeah.
Maybe he had to return it all. And that was part of the acquittal process. But what a strange thing. But it made me think, like, have you ever found a wallet? Have you ever lost a wallet and somebody returns it and everything was still in it?
Yeah.
Like, you had those moments?
Yeah.
You would return the wallet. You're a pastor. You're not going to.
What does that mean?
Do you go through the wallet?
Well, yeah, you got to find out who to take it to.
Right.
And since you're already there.
Oh, look, Amex Black Card. What do you know?
Ma'am, I've bought a flight to bring this back to you.
You're like, I don't think you understand how any of this works. Yeah, that's the thing too. We're depending on, you talk about the neighbor thing. We are going to be depending on each other's kindness more and more because, like, the robots are all out to get us. Like, there's AI scams. There's all this stuff.
Yeah.
We need, like, real people to actually take care of each other.
Yeah.
Because we're getting ready to have to fight these robots.
I mean, today I got a text, someone trying to get me to pay a parking violation that I did not. And Johnny, I
meant to tell you, I borrowed your car and your wallet. John, this week, 1935, radar was first demonstrated by British physicist Robert Watson Watt. Radar is an acronym for radio detection and ranging. Did you know that? Radar was one of those words? It's kind of like scuba is self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. And didn't we already determine that tuba was also an acronym for terrible underwater breathing apparatus? Okay. But radar is one of those words. First demonstrated. I don't even know if I could tell you how radar, what it does. What is radar doing?
I think it sends out
it's like
signal.
Sonar. It's like sonar in the air, right?
Yeah, it bounces off of something and then creates then a grid.
You always see it represented in like a cartoon, like those eccentric circles going up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sensing. Don't bats use radar?
Yeah. They're
not fully blind, but they do use radar echolocation.
They're just legally blind?
I don't know. I'm not good with the law. John, this week, 1788, the state of Franklin ceased to exist. We've talked a little bit about the state of Franklin. I didn't know a lot about it, but I was raised in East Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it was created in 1784 when East Tennessee declared itself an independent state. However, Congress denied its legitimacy.
It was right there in what's the town where the it's not, you can see the smokestacks, but you're not there yet. When you come down 40, you can see the Oak Ridge smokestacks.
Oh, Claxton.
Is it Claxton?
Claxton's right there. Bull Run Steam Plant, the big steam plant there.
Yeah, but
that's Claxton area.
Okay,
Clinton.
It's the exit my in-laws used to live off of, right there in. No. You're thinking of the other. It was when they moved to 10 Mile.
Oh, okay.
But that was like a good again.
But anyway, it was right there. I know that.
Yeah,
I know that area. I had no idea
through.
It was its own little. They made themselves their own state. How do you do? Was Benjamin Franklin behind this? Is that why it was called the state of Franklin? They were named it after him, but it was just a bunch of.
Well, he's still alive in 1788.
What did he think about this? Let's get him on the phone.
Kingston. Kingston.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I just couldn't get there.
This week, French psychologist and pharmacist Emile Coue, Emile Coue.
There's a French name every week right now. I love it.
Emile Coue was born. He created the psychotherapeutic technique. This is interesting because you were talking about saying a credo, and repeating it and how it has an effect. Like creeds do have an effect, but his technique was named after him, Cowism, I don't know, which was based on repeating the saying, day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. Day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. This was to be repeated up to 20 times a day, preferably in the morning and before going to bed.
Wow.
So it reminds me so much of What About Bob when he's like walking through traffic and he's doing his affirmations. He's like, I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel good. And then somebody walks by him. They're cursing him under their breath, a bum or whatever. And he's like, I feel good. I feel great. He's like panicking as he says it, but he's still saying it.
Right.
I love it. Well, that was Emile.
Well,
whatever his last name is.
It actually is interesting because I study a lot about neural pathways.
Okay.
And I think that's really what that's about, whether he did that or not. But you can. There are.
I need to find out if it actually was a legitimate.
There are neurofeedback things that like they can now trace your brain waves, but they can make you try to slow or speed up a video with your mind.
Okay.
And what you're doing is you're forging a neural pathway. I think words are one of the ways. And I think we did a quote about that. If we didn't, I need to. Tim Keller talked about how words, they reinforce and give life to ideas. Mm-hmm. And I think he said, like, if you're mad at someone, but then you go, I hate them, I wish I could punch them. He's like, now you want to do that more because you said that.
Yeah.
And so it reinforces it. So it's not a positive. I think maybe some of the positive confession stuff we were raised with had some legitimacy to it in terms of it does.
No, I do think there's something too, like you said, giving room for your positive or negative thoughts to grow or fester if it's a negative thought can be damaging or helpful. The whole idea of like manifest destiny and like we can just, every word is magic.
Right. Don't ever speak death over anything in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't even ever admit you're in a problem. Your car's on fire. You can't say my car's on fire.
Right.
Because you're
my car's not on fire in Jesus' name. That's what we'd hear growing up.
Yeah. So like there's a limit, but also like there is something to it. Like if you're around positive people, they generally have a better outlook and they're way more fun to be around. I will say that.
Yeah.
People that go.
I've been trying to find someone.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
We'll keep working.
Yeah.
John, finally, this week is Leap Day. Also known as Bachelor's Day. In 1288, Scotland enacted a law. This is wild. Scotland enacted a law in 1288 allowing women to propose marriage on Leap Day. The man was fined if he refused.
What?
The woman was required to wear a red petticoat while proposing. So there's a lot of stipulations.
There's a lot of rules.
1288 was wild in Scotland. Let me just say that.
Let me tell you.
If a woman walks up in a red petticoat, run!
Yeah, because
unless you just like can't wait, she can propose to you and you can be fined for refusing.
Wow.
We're not talking about proposing. Hey, let's go get a cup of coffee. We're saying marriage.
Yeah.
Did she have to get on one knee? What was going on? Like,
I don't know.
It's like a Sadie Hawkins, but for real. It's like you're in trouble, dude.
Yeah.
So
that's right around 1266? I think was the Norman conquest. The UK. I wonder. There's a lot happening there.
I think you're just trying to show that you know a lot, and neither of these two events are linked.
I'm trying to say I think
1277 was the first solar eclipse that was. That doesn't have anything to do with red petticoats, John.
I think I had a book about that over here.
There's a great new book about that called John and the Red Petticoat.
By John Driver with John Driver.
Is that how you ended up with Laura? She like had a wild hair and like got a red petticoat on?
I don't know. I told her the day, especially after listening to my 18-year-old self, I was like, what were you thinking?
Yeah. No,
like,
she blew it.
She
should have shopped.
I mean.
And she didn't.
And, I mean, she could have done so much better.
Yeah. So. Well, it's too late now.
It's 25 years this year. So.
But it's not too late for you, dear listener. John, how can people find more about the show and listen to earlier episodes?
You put on a red petticoat. You go to talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
Yes. And if you refuse, you are fined.
Mm-hmm. It's right there in the rules.
You are now married to us. No, we're not a cult.
Second.
Listen,
that's not.
We don't do that stuff here. We'll just be friends. How about that? John, if you click on the upper right-hand link, you can get ad-free content. Support the show. We love our patrons so much. If you want to send a note like our pal did about his book reading, you can go to hello@talkaboutthatpodcast.com. Fire off an email to that address. We'll receive it. Every now and again, we read those notes on the show, but we always read them, and we always it warms our
hearts.
Yeah.
We read them in our hearts, even if you don't.
That's how I read. I can't. I read with my heart.
You should check out Jonnie W at JONNIEW.com for new tour dates, man.
This episode will be coming out on Thursday, and I have a show. If you're listening to this and you're in East Tennessee, I am in Lenore City tonight doing a show, and it's for a guy who does a mission endeavor in Guatemala. All the proceeds to the show go to that.
Oh, great.
Go to my website, get tickets for that. If you're in Milwaukee, March 1st, Saturday, I'm doing a show with my buddy, Sean Reynolds. He's hilarious. It's a 2-man show. We're going to have a great time. That's at Fox River Christian Center, March 1st, this Saturday.
Yeah.
And if you miss those, if you're listening to this and you're late, you're like, we blew it. Sorry, Milwaukee. Sorry, Lenore City. But go to the website. There's other dates. A lot more dates coming out.
Yeah. There's more coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. exciting things happening all around. The new studio, Johnny, new tour dates.
It's fancy. We fancy it.
New YouTube look. Come on, man. It's happening. So thank you guys for enjoying the ride with us. Let's do it again next week here on
Talk About That.